Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good evening. Welcome to the April 11th, 2024 Planning Board meeting. As a courtesy to everyone that's here, if anyone's here for anything other than what's on the agenda, we will not be hearing the battery Union Energy tonight. We have 8 people on the agenda at scheduled time with us. However, you will definitely have time for a public hearing with us. And good news as of today is that Union Energy and Inside Engineering are going to arrange a question and answer period. I believe it's going to be a WebEx for anyone that wants to be heard on this topic. So you'll get Union Energy. We're not going to take any questions tonight. We have 8 people. I want to answer your question. No, we have 8 people on the agenda who are here for many things. As a courtesy, I just want to give you a little open and let you know that you're going to have time to speak with us. None of our minds made up. We're still in the discovery phase of this project. We've met with this team twice, I think. I don't know, 2 or 3 times, once or twice. We've asked them a lot of questions. There's a lot of environmental studies that are going to have to be done. There's a lot of studies that are going to be done. This company, Union Energy, as well as Inside Engineering to represent them, are going to give you plenty of time to just ask them questions, and they'll respond to you. And then we're, on top of that, because we're concerned citizens of Mahopac also, on top of that, we're going to have another public hearing for you to talk to us. But out of respect for all the people that are on the agenda tonight, I'm sorry? It's going to be, I could start the agenda. I'm just doing this as a courtesy, right? It's going to be in May. I found out that today from Rose. It will be posted on the website. So we want to give you as much information as you can. I've watched every town meeting. I've watched there. I know I've read probably 90% of the emails, not 100% of them. And the entire board has been doing the same thing. So we live here. We care about this community. We're in a discovery phase. There's a lot of information to be learned by all of us. We have a great team of consultants here.
We thank you for that.
Yeah, and we're going to talk to you. We're going to talk to you. I just, out of respect, there's 8 people here with garages and additions, and they've asked to be on the agenda. Union Energy is not ready to come back to us yet because, like Anthony was saying before, they're in a discovery phase. So I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to derail those that are on the meeting. That's it. Look. No, look. See, that's why I can't ask questions. All right, look. We're going to start the agenda. First on the agenda today, 20 Day Road LLC, public hearing on a bond return. It's for a bond return. Mike, Rich, and Pat, I don't believe you had any questions, but Rich, you did look at this.
Yeah, so both Mike and I inspected the site. It's eligible to have the bond returned in full.
Anyone from the public like to be heard on this bond return?
Mr. Chairman, being there's no public comment, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye. Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to refer this to the town board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Ed, the next phase is that this goes to the town board for them to approve having the bond returned, so.
Next on the agenda, 355 Huguenot, 85 Huguenot Incorporated, 85 Glenita Avenue for a site plan. Mike's unable to be here tonight. Would you read his comments, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant wants to utilize the former Carmel Fire Commissioner's building off Route 52 in Carmel. This is considered retail. They have to correct the parking calculation. This is not a light impact industry. 1 parking space per 200 square feet is required. Variances are required from the ZBA for lot area, frontage, lot width, lot depth, side yard, rear yard, building area, and coverage. So that's up to, you'll get the memo from Mike, from Rose about the percentages that Mike identified. So my comments, the application involves change of use, light impact industry at the reference address. You should provide a water and sewer use report for review. No site improvements are being made on this project. I have no additional comments related to the project, as long as there are no changes being made to the site.
And thank you, Rich. Pat?
So is
Rich indicated, this is a change of use to that building that I'm sure you're familiar with. It's behind the cemetery, that old Baptist cemetery. No physical improvements to the building are proposed. There is a change of use proposed, though. So Adam, when we get to you, the big question is, what's the new use going in the building? So right now, there's essentially no parking on the site, but the site's adjacent to a parking lot. So we're not sure if there's a lot of public use for this new use, if they're going to use the adjacent parking lot. All of that would need to be sort of clarified. The variances that Mike indicated are pre-existing non-conforming conditions. So there's no change to that building, but as you can see from the plan before you, the building is essentially property line to property line. So all the variances for that existing building that's been there for probably 90 years.
So when I was out there today in that parking lot, that's not part of this.
It's not part of the property.
It
And in
seems
fact,
it.
that L shape, there is a restriction on that property that you can't park on it, and it's an access easement only. So there is a deficiency in parking. There is a requirement, as Mike indicated before, required parking. I think it's 5 spaces. So there would be a deficiency in parking. Again, if it's a retail use, a publicly accessible use, parking can be a concern, and they need to address that in some way. There's another related issue, and it is the proximity of this site to the historic cemetery. So if we can have the applicant verify with SHPO if there's any historic preservation issues associated with that. There's a process that Adam can do through their online database. That's a fairly quick procedure, and we just need to find out if SHPO has any interest in this application.
Adam, to follow up on Pat's question, do you know what the retail use, or do you know what they're planning for that space? Because that's got a lot to do with the project.
Yep, so the change of use is going from, is used as an event space or a meeting space for the fire department. The change is to a automotive accessory installation business, so they'll do audio, lettering, and
Is that microphone on? Is that on? Is that microphone on?
Doesn't sound.
Let's try this one. Is that better?
Yeah, much better. Thank you. Did you say meeting space, it's meeting space, audio, not auto, audio?
Audio. So let me just start over. So, so they're seeking to change the use of the existing building to automotive accessory installation. So it's car alarms, remote starters, audio, lettering, and things like that. So Mike's made the determination that this is a service business. And so the way the applicant envisions it operating is that it's going to be open 10 to 6 Tuesdays through Saturdays, and it'll be by appointment. So the expectation is that someone's going to arrive, they're going to bring their vehicle, it's going to go into the garage space. There's 2 overhead doors, as you probably saw if you were at the site. They'll do their work, and then the vehicles will leave from there. So there isn't a great demand for parking. Initially, with our submission, we looked at this as a light impact industries, which would have required, based on the square footage, 2 parking spaces, and we have those 2 parking spaces inside that garage. Mike and Pat have determined that it's a service business, so we would be seeking a variance for the additional parking that comes along with that use. We'll be required to have 5 parking spaces, and as Pat was mentioning, there's really nowhere to put those. So we'll have the 2 that we talked about inside the building here, and we'll seek a variance for the other 3.
So, is there a shared easement for that parking area?
Not to my knowledge, no.
So who owns the parking lot?
The parking
The applicant?
lot? No, the applicant does not. No, it's a separate party. It's separately, privately owned. There is, as Pat mentioned, there's I believe, a deed restriction across the lower 18 feet of that property, which disallows parking or anything else. It needs to be made clear because there's a curb cut here that allows people to access the parking lot. So somewhere along the line, a deed restriction was added, so we can't use that space for parking.
That parking lot, Joe, is pretty crowded today.
I'm not sure who's using it, because I'm not sure who owns it, and I'm not sure how many entities have access to it. So I think that needs to be clarified.
Okay, yeah, we'll look a little bit more into that. Again, I don't believe the current owner has any type of agreement or that there's any kind of easement other than the deed restriction on the applicant's property, limiting the use of that 18-foot strip. But in the meantime, as was mentioned, the applicant doesn't anticipate needing more than really the 2 parking spaces that we've proposed, which will be inside the garage. Again, it's going to be a pretty light operation.
So, Adam, could you clarify that? So is it that they have 15 customers in a day and 15 people show up at 8, leave their cars?
No.
Do you
This
make an
is-
appointment and show up there?
No,
How would it operate?
my understanding from the applicant is that this is going to be by appointment only. A vehicle will come in, or up to 2 vehicles will come in, they'll be serviced, and they'll leave. It's not a drop your car off, a day in advance kind of. This is not like a auto body shop or a regular mechanic. This is for installation of a sound system or something like that.
That would have to be a condition of approval that you'd have to.
The site affords what it affords in terms of space and parking, and as was discussed, we'll seek the variance for the 3 parking spaces. But again, the applicant doesn't anticipate needing more than the 2.
I think you should come back to the board with a list of what is potentially going to be installed. Is it radios? Is it alarm systems? Is it, because it will end up being conditional approval.
We've provided a list. We can make sure that that's the exhaustive
sure.
list. We did put in our letter that it would be car alarms, remote starters, audio systems, and lettering.
Can we just go
Lettering is
back
what-
to parking
what
for?
do you mean lettering?
Like if you had a business and you wanted to put your business name on your vehicle, that kind of thing.
On the sides, okay.
Would you also just show us how traffic's, or, vehicles will enter and exit the facility?
Yep. Sorry, I just want to make sure I capture that. Yeah, so they would come in through, there's a curb cut here on Glenita. They would come in, they would go into the garage, they would back up, and they'd go out the same way that they came in.
But no parking is allowed. They're allowed access, but no parking.
There's no parking lot. There is actually a sign here, I guess with the previous use. There's a sign for police parking. I guess they were using it, I think, based on the deed restriction, we really can't show those as parking spaces. They have historically been used as parking spaces, but we're not showing that because of the deed restriction.
So,
All right, thank you.
can we go back to parking for a second? How many employees are going to be at the operation?
I believe it's going to be 1 to 2.
So for 2 employees, where are they going to park?
Yeah, there's also, as you know, this is Glenita Avenue, there's off-street parking, there's the parking lot next door that I think is publicly used, but generally, they'll be parking either in the garage or in off-street parking in the hamlet there.
Do they expect any deliveries of materials or anything that need to be concerned about the parking there?
We can get clarity on that. I think generally it would be, typical delivery of supplies and then, the Amazon truck and that kind of thing. But we'll get you an answer for that.
I don't know about your experience with, I haven't worked onto the cars, but it's going to happen that some parts didn't come in or something's happened and they're going to need to keep the car overnight and they didn't finish just normal business, right? It just happens. So I too am concerned with the park, and I think you really need to clarify that a lot. You have the employees, call it 2 employees. You have 2 cars scheduled. 1 car or 2 cars don't get finished that day. Tomorrow morning you have more cars, things get backed up. I think you've heard it from all of us. I think we're all concerned.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, the solution is the parking lot
Yeah.
right there, but who owns it, to Joe's point, and does he have a right to access it or utilize it? That would have to be worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, it is privately owned by a separate party, but we can look into options.
So the other concern that I would have is you have people coming in off of the single curb cut and then going back out off the same one, correct?
Correct.
But there is another means of ingress and egress on that lot,
In the parking lot, yeah, further to the south.
which at times has been chained off.
Yes.
Because there's an issue with respect to, again, who parks there, who's permitted to park there. So that issue really needs further amplification for this board, because people are going to drive in one and out the other, and this plan doesn't provide for that, if that means of ingress and egress is open. And I'm not quite sure why it's not open unless there's an issue with respect to the parking lot owner and those who are trying to use it that he's trying to prevent from using it.
Yeah, I can't speak to the operations and how the neighboring property owner is operating their site, but we can look into it.
Any other questions from the board?
I do have concerns. I doubt it would ever happen, but if that adjacent parking lot was ever redeveloped, is that 18 feet enough space to back in and out of that garage?
We'll provide a vehicle maneuver with our next submission to show, we'll model how a vehicle can come in and out of the site.
Adam, you probably want to get to the ZBA, but in my opinion, this is not ready for them. It wouldn't, in my opinion, again, it wouldn't be, I don't want to speak for the board, but it wouldn't be a positive send-off to the zone. We just need too much information. I don't like to send applications, the board doesn't like to send applications to the ZBA that's more developed than this. I think we just have too many questions at this time.
And Adam, just one other question about the use. Is it a franchise? Is this a one-off kind of business?
This is a one-off, to my understanding.
No,
and-
not ready yet.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, so just with regard to the variances that are required, some of them are pre-existing non-conforming conditions. It's my understanding, and I'll just want to make sure that we're clear, we are being asked to go and address those with the ZBA. And then, as I mentioned, the 3 parking spaces, we're happy to go to the ZBA and make our case there.
I think there's.
But to your point, we're
Yeah,
happy to
there's
get
like
you more
7 or
clarity,
9
and we'll come back.
variances. I'd rather you go in there clean, prepared, than too many questions.
And just one other minor issue that I failed to mention, there's a fire escape that drops onto the adjacent property, and it looks like there's some HVAC equipment that seems to be on the adjacent property as well. So you need to clear that up.
Will do. One other item, Pat, and we could talk about this offline too, was your SHPO comment. Given that there's no, I believe this is going to be a type 2, and there's no ground disturbance, generally we wouldn't apply to SHPO in that situation. Are you looking for us to just?
So what I'm asking you to do is go through this risk system.
Yep, yeah.
So just do that and get the response from them. I think there's a historic marker on the property that it's conspicuous. It's called an historic burying ground. So let's ask you.
Okay.
Good catch.
Yeah, I think it should come back.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll see you in 2 weeks if you're ready.
Very good. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next on the agenda is Greco, Route 6 LLC, 395 Route 6 for a site plan. Rich, if you don't mind reading Mike's and your own comments, please.
No problem, Mr. Chairman. The applicant wants to add 2 contractor warehouses, 10,000 square foot and 3,200 square foot to the rear of the property on Route 6. There's currently a dog daycare and 2-family dwelling that will be removed. The new zoning code is specifically allowing contractor yards. The current mixed use is being removed. Variances were granted by the ZBA and are so noted on the plat for the 3,200 square foot building. The west side 25-foot, a 7-foot and 18-foot variance. On the north side, a 7-foot and 18-foot variance. My comments, Mr. Chairman and Board, applicant has noted the necessary referrals. They've noted the necessary permits. They've noted the need for a stormwater pollution prevention plan, stormwater maintenance agreement. Just 2 minor comments. For the vehicle movement plans, provide the actual site distance calculations. And they've indicated that the on-site well will be sufficient and will not be a public water supply. Applicants should just confirm when you're dealing with the Putnam County DOH for the septic, that is in actuality that they approve and accept that. Otherwise, all the other comments have been addressed.
Thanks, Rich. And Pat?
So the applicant's done a good job of addressing some of the preliminary comments. As I've emphasized throughout, this building's in the back of the property. You really won't see it from Route 6. You see the swimming pools from Route 6. But that back of the property is significant and important to us because it runs along the trailway. So that's a second frontage to this property, in addition to Bucks Hollow Road. So we've asked the applicant to really address the landscaping and screening of that area. There's some scrubby growth there now and a chain link fence. The applicant's done quite a good job of doing what they can in the area they have. So the entire perimeter of that property, along that property line, will have 6 to 10 foot evergreens planted as they go in, and they'll obviously grow larger than that. Second issue relates to your responsibility as an architectural review board. Even with those plants, certainly for a few years until they grow, as the image that I'm standing next to shows you, you'll see the top portion of that building. The building is oriented so that the garage doors are facing the trailway in the back of the property. It's an industrial building. It's not the most attractive industrial building, and the area above the doors is a blank void. So it would be useful if there were just some horizontal architectural elements to break up that massing a little bit, to just soften that view. And eventually those evergreens are gonna grow and you probably won't see much of the building, but for a while, for 10 years, you're gonna.
You're looking for faux dormers or something along those lines, or?
Or, you know, just a banding that goes horizontal across the
Okay.
building to break up what you're seeing in that image, which is a big blank
Yeah, we
gray
can,
wall.
we can talk to the architect about adding some detailing.
Thanks, Pat. Questions from the board on this project?
And do you have an elevation?
Yeah.
Of what Pat was talking about? That side of
Yes.
the building where the doors are?
There's,
That's from Route
I
6.
don't have an elevation with me, but I have a rendered,
Or rendered, that's
yeah.
fine.
That's,
So that's going to be the larger of the two buildings, and this would be the smaller building. So
Pat, what
similar
elevation were you
style.
referring to? Over the garage doors?
yeah.
I think Pat's talking about maybe
That's all
something up here,
vertical,
Yeah.
something above the overhead door or something
Yeah.
like that.
Maybe fake windows or something.
So the garage is faced out to Route 6.
Yeah, or
Yeah, so
maybe
this is the street view rendering that we put together. So I'm sorry, no, not towards out towards Route 6. So this is from Bucks Hollow Road.
Trailway.
So this is a street view
Yeah,
from
yeah,
Bucks
that's what
Hollow
I
Road.
thought, that's what I thought.
Yep,
And that's the
that's the trailway.
Yep.
You know, I think you're aware of what it looks like now. The existing residence is going to be taken down. The smaller of the two buildings here will go more or less in its place. A little bit further into the site, we sought the variance for the side yard setbacks, which were approved last month. And this building will sit just behind the existing building that houses the dog daycare and will face out towards Bucks Hollow Road.
And this is commercial zoning as it
It's
is.
commercial zone, and again, just to remind everyone, that area of the site now is a mess.
Yeah.
So this
Yeah,
clearly
this
cleans
in
that up.
itself
It
is an
provides
improvement.
contractor space for local guys. It's a good use on the property, and it cleans up a problem.
Yeah, much better.
Absolutely.
Even if the trees don't grow.
Yeah.
It's better.
It's an improvement. Yeah.
Any other
No,
comments?
looks good.
The only other comment I'd say, which I'm sure would naturally happen here, but when you walk the bike path, ride on the bike path, whatever, there's a lot of debris throughout the whole, not just your one section, but your whole yard, I think would happen naturally, should be cleaned up.
Yeah, this definitely gets cleaned up. I have I mean, we can look at the existing conditions against the proposed, but, you know, generally, this is a lot that's just millings, and there is some storage and so on. That's all gonna get paved. The building will go in, and then obviously we'll be supplementing the landscaping. Pat mentioned that really there's some reasonably dense hedges kind of on the fringes on this side and over on this side. The inside is kind of scrubby stuff that you can see right through. That would get ripped out, and the new plantings. We're also pulling the pavement line back just a couple of additional feet to let the roots of the new trees grow in. And so that'll fill in as a nice hedge, and we're mixing it with a couple different types of evergreens to give it a little bit of texture and a little bit of life. So it's not just a solid hedge, as I think Pat mentioned at a previous meeting. But yeah, certainly this is going to be a much cleaned up operation from the existing conditions.
Good, Bob.
Do we have any thing that we can do in the conditions for approval to make sure that it remains cleaned up and that there are no disposals of waste material or yard debris,
Yes, so
whatever?
we can absolutely impose those conditions. The challenge is going to be, it's not a particularly visible location in the back of the property unless you're on the trailway, so.
Craig walks the trailway. He'll
There you
find
go.
it.
You know,
You're
what
hereby
our,
deputized.
what our view here is that any project that comes in front of us today, we have to start somewhere, right? To clean up the town, to clean up these projects. Any project that comes in front of us today should look nicer when it leaves us, right? Hard to argue with that, right? We've been hearing it. This is a good opportunity. And you have two front yards. You have Route 6, although you don't see that well, and you have a front yard to the bike path, which doesn't look good today. So
Yeah,
I think this is improvement for the town. I
It's
think
gonna-
this
it's
should
gonna be
be
a big
one of the
improvement.
nicer industrial buildings, commercial buildings on the bike path.
And Bob, to your point, the landscaping the requirement is that it's perpetual. If something dies, they have to
Right,
replace
that I
it.
understand.
I see some people raising their hands. This is not a public hearing tonight, but we're going to schedule a public hearing if anyone would like to speak on this project or the projects in
It's
the
ready for
future.
public hearing.
Yeah, so,
Mr. Chairman, just so the
have you
public
picked out your
understands
materials
also,
yet?
in addition to the public hearing that they'll have an opportunity to stay here and speak to the board directly, the board does accept written comment. So for example, there are other applications that are pending before this board that we are now receiving on a daily basis written comment from politicians and others who are stakeholders with respect to a particular application. You are free to email Rose Trombetta, who is the planning board secretary. All of that correspondence on any application then gets forwarded to the board, and the board can consider that and use that as questioning for an applicant. So just because we're not in a public hearing and you may not be speaking on a given project tonight, doesn't mean that you're prohibited from accessing the board vis-à-vis written comment.
and we do read them.
Yes, we do.
Okay,
I just want to.
Thanks, Joe.
You know, again, as, you know, our role as architectural review, is that the color scheme you're thinking of going with?
Yeah, so these are the building renderings. So there would be the stone finish along the base, and then you'd have the steel, and it would be in this color scheme.
And what's the roof?
I believe the roof is also metal, but I can,
Metal, standing seam metal?
yeah, I
What-
believe so.
What color is it, black?
It'll be, I think, let me see if we've got. I can get you an answer for that.
Yeah, just,
I'm not sure if that's been decided.
I mean, I'm
but,
not criticizing the color scheme right now, because it's kind of unnoticeable, which I think is a smart move for there.
Yeah, we're looking for
With your
colors that'll
with your
blend in a
neutrals and
little
your-
bit.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And do you have renderings from the Route 6 side? I'm just asking because I know this is taller than the doggy daycare, and I don't know
Yeah.
if those architectural treatments should
We
wrap
pro-
around the building, maybe?
Yeah, so we had provided a cross-section that showed the portion of the building that would be visible. We don't have like a street view rendering from that side. You're really, you're just gonna catch the top of the building, and you're gonna see, there's not really gonna be much of a noticeable change of the view of the property from Route 6. If that's something that you wanted to see, we could probably put that together for the next meeting.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
Okay?
Yeah, whatever you're going to do in the back, if you can put it on the front as well.
Yeah.
May not be as high, but it might just continuation, yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Zach, we like, Adam, we like this project, because I think it enhances, it's gonna look better than what it looks
Improves that
today.
site.
And improves the site. and
Much
improves-
better.
So. Okay,
Yeah,
no
looks
other
good.
questions?
Chairman, being there are no other questions, I'd make a motion to schedule this for a public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Adam, thank you, nice job
Great.
on this.
Thank you.
By the way, everyone's welcome to hear what's going on in town, you're welcome to stay here. But we're not having a Q&A afterwards, just for your awareness. You're welcome to stay and hear all these fun projects and interesting projects, but there is no open forum tonight. Next on the agenda, you're a busy man tonight. Next on the agenda is Knights of Columbus, 10 Fair Street, site plan.
Mr. Chairman, before we begin, I'm going to have to respectfully recuse myself in the instant matter.
Sure. Rich, would you read Mike's and your own comments, please?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not going to recuse myself unless Joe tells me, but I am a member of the Knights of Columbus, but not this specific council, so I don't know if that matters.
Being Catholic doesn't preclude you.
There we go. So, I got dispensation from Pope Joe. So I'll read Mike's. The applicant wants to add an 800-foot addition to the existing building on Fair Street. Mike's question, were variances granted for the existing nonconformities? If not, they need to be addressed. Variances are required from the ZBA. Lot area, 21,168 square foot variance. Frontage, 111 9-foot variance. Lot width, 115 foot. Lot depth, 110 foot. Front yard, 18.5 feet. Side yard, 16.3. And the rear yard, 28.6. Again, you'll get the memo from Rose. She'll send them out tomorrow. My comments are fairly straightforward. General comments, they would referrals to the DEC, Department of Health, Department of Planning for GML 239, and Carmel Fire Department, New York State DEC for stormwater if needed. The plan should specify the total area being disturbed. I know it's only an 800 square foot building, so it's probably gonna be under the thresholds, but it should specify it so we can make those decisions. May need to have a stormwater maintenance agreement, again, all depending on the disturbance, and public improvements as part of the performance bond and engineering fees. Detailed comments include there's a wall that's being put up there, bottom and top elevations should be there. All retaining walls greater than 6 foot must be certified by a licensed structural engineer. There's easement information for the parking area has been provided. This should be reviewed by the planning council. Provide a water and wastewater report, and a light spill plan should be provided.
Thank you, Rich. And Pat?
Minor addition to the Knights of Columbus, not a big deal with respect to this application. Mike listed a bunch of existing nonconformities that may or may not require variances. The building addition, the dark gray area at the bottom, does require 2 new variances for the building addition as well. They're right up on the rear property line.
Were those in the variances that?
I think Mike included everything.
Okay.
Yep. There is, Rich was alluding to, they share parking with the county property. There should be some agreement in place so that we understand what they're
The easement
sharing.
was provided with the submission.
Okay. Joe, then Joe needs to take a look at that. And finally, Rich mentioned the wall. So there is a new wall. Is there grading associated? Are you taking material out, putting material in?
It would be minimal, just for foundations and for basing the wall.
So other than that, this is a very minor application, no major issues.
Questions?
What's the use of that part of the
So
building?
the Knights of Columbus use this building for just general use, but also to host their various charitable events. This does not contemplate any additional membership, joining in. It would be really just to give them a little more flexibility, a little more space for the events that they already have. So it's really just a little bit of additional event space.
So just a wide open space, no kitchen facilities or anything?
No,
just-
yeah, it's just, we provided a floor plan, which you can see here. So this is the extent of the addition. So we've got a door coming over here. We've got the way in from the existing building here, and it's essentially just some additional floor space for event space. So
And-
no additional restrooms or anything like that. It's just an expansion of the existing space.
So you get in from that side or in from the inside of the existing building, but you can't get out any other way?
No, you can get out. You can get out here,
Yeah,
or
but
you
I'm
can go back in through the other
Right.
bit, through the existing building.
But I meant towards the bottom, like where the...
No, towards the bottom, there's a grade drop-off, and that's the
Okay.
reason for the proposed retaining wall.
Okay,
That's where the wall is.
yeah.
Yes.
Are you going to try and match it architecturally to the existing extension? That way it doesn't look like there's like 3 separate buildings there on the site?
Currently, the plan, you can see here, it would be vinyl siding. You can see the roof details would be asphalt shingle. The existing building, I believe, is brick, so it would be a little different, but we can provide color drawings of the elevations so you can get a sense of the material and how they work together.
One of my notes was just answered, materials. What's it gonna look like? The role that Pat mentions that we play. I know it's a small addition, but 800 square feet there will stick out if you put something strange, which I know you wouldn't do.
Yeah, so it'll be different material than the existing building, but we'll show you colors and how it'll kind of blend together.
Any separate heating or air conditioning systems going in for that addition?
I don't believe so. I think it's all going to be self-contained with the rest of the building, but I'll get you confirmation on that.
Actually, that's a good point, Adam. If that touches the ground,
Where are we going to put?
Right. Yeah, I'll get you an answer for that. It's only an 800 square foot addition, so I believe it's going to just share any HVAC utilities with the existing building, but I'll get you an answer for that.
Will it be sprinkled?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Is the main part of the building sprinkled?
I don't know.
We could ask Mark.
Yeah. It's a big...
Joe's thinking it's not sprinkled.
Yeah.
Obviously, similar to the previous application, or one of the previous applications, we've got some nonconformities that we need to address. We have a potential parking, I should say we have some potential nonconformities that we should address,
And your variances
and
on the
a potential parking variance that we might need. So if the board was willing, we'll certainly, I think Mike had a question about whether there were previous variances granted. We can certainly look into that in the intervening time as we pull together an application, if the board thought it was appropriate to refer us to the ZBA tonight, so we can, again, given that this is such a simple 800 square foot addition on an existing building, if the board thought it was appropriate, it would be helpful if we could be referred tonight, and we can get those details before we submit to the ZBA.
Before we answer that question, now, one of the things I think in Pat's memo said that we're looking for 6 parking spaces or a variance. Do you have any potential plans for that?
Yeah, so we've got spaces on the existing lot. There's also the easement that you all will take a look at, that, to our understanding, encompasses the entirety of the county lot down here. In our parking summary, we've pointed out that, for the existing building and the addition, we're required to have 52 parking spaces. With the spaces that exist on the subject property and the spaces that are within the easement, we've got access to 90 parking spaces. So we've got many more parking spaces than is required for the existing or the proposed condition.
Is there a written documentation on the agreement with the county?
Yes, so there's an easement, and the agreement spells out, it's actually a reciprocal easement over this piece for access to this lot, and then the subject property has rights over the county piece for parking and access.
Was that submitted with the application?
It was, yeah.
It was, okay. Thank you.
So Pat, the next point would be to send it off to the ZBA for review? Yeah, we can do things in parallel. We can send it to the ZBA knowing that you're going to answer all of our questions, and it comes back to us anyway.
Absolutely, yeah, and we can check, we can deal with the pre-existing non-conforming and anything else that was in Mike's memo.
In this case, I think we can do things in parallel. You guys okay with that?
Yeah.
Great.
Then, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to deny this to the ZBA.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Phrase Subdivision, 79 Secore Road, sketch plan for 2 lots. Is anyone here for, oh, I'm sorry. You were sitting in the cheap seats. Please.
If you could, yes. Just one. One's good?
You want one for the camera? Oh, okay. Rich, would you read Mike and your own comments, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The applicant wants to divide a lot with a house and 2 barns into 2 lots. The lots is in a C commercial zoning district. Only 40,000 square feet of lot area is required in the C zoning district. 1-family dwellings and their permitted accessories are permitted in the C zoning district. Provide setbacks to the garage on lots 1 and 2. Until they are provided, I cannot determine what variances are needed. Why do you think a variance is needed for the rear yard of lot 1? 30 feet are required and 31.2 feet are provided. Variances from the ZBA for lot width on lot 1, 41 foot, lot 1 frontage, 84 and 24 feet, and lot 2, 46-foot variance. So my comments encompass to subdivide a 2.2 acre parcel at the referenced 79 Secore Road. I apologize, my memo has the wrong address in that paragraph. Lot 1 would be 1.02 acres, and Lot 2 would be 0.955 acres. There's an existing structure on Lots 1, and Lot 2 is proposed to be developed into a residential dwelling. The development of Lot 2 will need to come back to the planning board following our preliminary comments. Provide a signed and sealed by licensed surveyor, a survey of the property. Provide a color version of the existing conditions plans to determine the steep slopes on the site. Configuration of Lot 2 will require a variance as it does not have road frontage. The board should be aware that the drawing does not contain information regarding areas proposed to be reserved for open space. Subdivision plans are refined. All missing elements mandated by Section 131.13 should be incorporated into the design plans. Some more general comments, referrals to the state DEC, Planning Board, Department of Health, Department of Town of Carmel Highway, ECB, Mahopac Fire Department. Permits for stormwater with state DEC, well and septic for Putnam County Department of Health, ECB for wetlands, and Town of Carmel Highway for driveway. They will need a sweep. It's over 5,000 square foot of disturbance. Need for a maybe need for performance bond engineering fee. That information will need to be provided. For detailed comments, sketch division subplat, provide a note called drainage flow. It provides a note called drainage flow typical. This needs to be explained further and will need to be signed and sealed. That's for the subdivision plat. Driveway access is shown on a curve on Walnut Drive. This location should be reviewed by a traffic engineer. It's at a very weird place. It's pretty much the only access they can get in there. It's right on the top of a curb. Silt fence must be shown at the downstream end of the septic expansion field along the edge of the 100-foot wetland buffer. And the SEAF identifies archaeological sites and remediation sites adjacent to the property. Applicant has indicated they have contacted New York State for some additional information.
Thank you, Richard. Pat, please.
Yeah, so this is an unusual application. As Mike indicated, it's actually in the C zone, but if you went by there to take a look at the property, it's a residential neighborhood. So it's odd that it's in the C zone. It's really the last two parcels in the C zone. So perhaps in our master plan update, that zoning may be changed in the future. Benefits the applicant because instead of a 3-acre minimum, he only needs an acre, and a single-family home is permissible in this zone. So he's got enough area for those two lots. The back lot, the top lot, only has about 15 feet of frontage on that road. That's the primary variance that's necessary. So that limits his ability to access that property. And as Rich indicated, the only place to access that is on basically a 90-degree bend of the road, which is about as, it's not a great spot for a driveway. The good news, it's on the right side of the bend, not the, if it were on the inside of the bend, he'd have 0 sight distance. He probably has sufficient sight distance, but we want to get the details and the measurements to further understand that. One other question with respect to this, Secore Brook is just off-site. They submitted documentation from a certified wetland scientist confirming that there were no wetlands along that boundary. And they extended, if there were, they extended a 100-foot setback just to see where it would fall on that property. No buildings or improvements are proposed in that area. However, if there is a wetland boundary along the edge of the brook, that line could shift. So we may want to send it to the ECB just to confirm, I think it was Ted Kowalski that did the work, just to confirm that that's in fact accurate.
Just to add on to that, the ECB may ask them just to put signage up to limit that area so that they know. So you normally put a post and rail fence with a sign saying wetland buffer boundary. That's something that the ECB may require. It's up to the ECB to make that decision on that.
And just a couple of minor ones, just, it looks like a relatively flat property, but if there's any grading that's necessary, we need to know about it. How are you bringing electric and utilities into the property? That should be shown on the plan. And if there's any tree removal, that should be shown on the plan as well. And you can start the seeker process tonight. You can designate yourselves to be lead agency and start that process.
Thank you, Pat. Did you have your sign posted?
Yes.
I must have missed it, okay.
It's on that, it's on this, so this is a 90-degree turn and everything he said is accurate.
Oh, do you need the microphone?
You got to use the microphone.
Okay. So it is on this curve, but like you said, the benefit is on the right side of the curve, and there's a tremendous amount of sight distance, and there's another curve here, so the traffic here is always very slow. There's no speeding in this area because it's such a turn. And here you can see all the way down. This is where that power line goes. This property here is also owned by us, SSCL, so we can, if we had to increase it, which we don't, because when you come out here, you can see clearly, so there's no grading needed or cutting. And the same this way. We also own this property, which borders this, and one across the street, and we're kind of friendly with the neighbors, and that's kind of, people have approached me to do something with this in the commercial aspect, but, I have houses here, and the neighbors are great, so we think this is the best fit to put a residential house and to stop the commercial part of this, even before the zoning was to change or anything. It just seems like he said, it makes sense, it's all residents. I've spoke with these neighbors, I spoke with this neighbor, we're very friendly, just spoke to him on the way here to let him know we were coming, and like I said, I own another property here, know the neighbors here, and know Papazian, so kind of, and this guy also is aware of the project before I was even coming in front of the board. So everybody seems to be on that page that we're doing the right project for the area.
Would you just take us through the subdivision itself and how it's going to split up?
Sure. This is the existing house that's on the property. There's an existing old garage here that's in great shape that we want to leave, and there's a shed here that's to be removed. That would be in the turnaround. So here would be the house site, the driveway coming in, the septic area is here, and the well for this property is here, meets all the criteria, and that's
There's another house right close to that, though, right?
this one here.
Up top, past the garage.
Here?
Yeah, well, the garage, behind the garage and the other.
This one here?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a house here. That's their well, so that house sits about here.
The only property he doesn't own.
Exactly.
And just, I
But a
think I
great
failed
guy.
to mention that there's 2 accessory buildings that are shown to remain that you'd need setback variances for.
This is on the lot that's going to be on its own, and then this one is going to be on the lot for the new house,
So
correct?
you'd also need variances for those setbacks unless you remove the buildings.
We'd like to keep them, they've been there forever. I don't think the neighbors have any problem with it. This isn't, a 2-car garage that's active, and this is a 1-car garage, and they're clean and neat, and
Well, the garage has like 5 or 6 tires outside of it, I believe.
5 or 6 what?
Tires, did I see some tires back in there?
Which one? This one?
On your property there.
I hope not, but
Maybe in the back by where the garage is, where those 2 buildings, yeah,
this one here?
yeah.
There could be, but I can,
Every application that comes forward to me, I don't let you off the hook without cleaning up the properties.
Agreed,
Now,
no.
This is even good because you have 3 or 4 or 5 properties there.
yes.
Can you rake the leaves too? while you're-
Yeah.
I'm on your page, though.
So,
No problem.
we have to start somewhere.
Agreed.
I don't want to sound like a broken record, but whatever you have there, let's clean them all up.
Yeah, no, I agree with it. But this property, I don't know if you remember, before I bought it, this was I took a lot of garbage out of this property. A lot of work was done just cleaning it up. It was, tractors and cars and equipment and junk.
Any other questions? Otherwise, we need a motion to serve as lead agency.
I'll make a motion that we serve as lead agency.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Work with Rose and the consultants, and we'll see you back when you're ready.
I'm grateful. Thank you for your time. Really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
It'll be nice.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Platinum Propane, 1035 Route 6, extension of final site plan. Thank you.
Mike had no comments. The applicant is requesting an extension of site plan approval. The engineering department does not have any objection to granting said extension.
Pat, you had no comments?
No issues and no objections, Mr. Chairman.
So this will be a 1-year extension, right?
You can grant up to 1 year.
What's the extension needed for?
So I believe the board was copied on correspondence with the DOT. So we're in that process. There are a couple other outside agencies that are not going to take very long that, we're also working on. With DOT, per the letter that you received, they had concerns. Now, I'll mention that, and it was mentioned during the process, we met with DOT on site before we made our application to this board, and it was agreed, at least in concept, that the driveway should be located in the place where we showed it. The letter that we got back after we submitted our stage 1 application for the highway work permit indicated concerns of site distance. So we've gone back and forth with DOT. We've gotten to a place where we think we're in agreement. We've submitted our stage 2 part of the application, which is the meat of the application, the more substantive part of the application. And we're in agreement that really the only change to the site plan that you'll see from what was approved is that we will not be exiting to the left. We'll only be exiting the site to the right. And the site distance to the left is going, you'll see a little bit of additional brush clearing on the site along the frontage, and a little bit of modest grading further to the south just to open up site distance a little bit more in that direction. And it'll just simply be a no left turns on the out for that driveway. And there's no substantive physical change in the site plan that's been approved. And again, that's with DOT, and we've been going back and forth with them. So we think we're in a good place there. And as soon as that's taken care of, we'll be back. We'll share any, we'll share those changes with you, which again will be negligible. And that's really the only thing that's holding this up.
Well, we could go to a 180-day extension, and then,
How quick does, well, I was going to ask a question.
The
How
DOT.
quick?
DOT is not quick.
necessarily prompt.
So the
Well,
year,
they'll give us the year's a long way out. I mean, it'd be nice to keep, to Anthony's point, it'd be nice to keep abreast of the project. 6 months from now, this is a great project,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, we're happy to come back, check in,
Yeah.
in 6 months.
Even if it's a 5-minute check-in, I think, to Anthony's point, it's worth it. I'll make the motion, Anthony, for 180 days. Any other questions, anybody else?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to, for an extension, 180-day extension of final subdivision approval.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Adam, I think you can sit down now.
Thanks.
Thanks, Adam. Good evening. Next on the agenda is Gateway Summit Multifamily Lot 6, 2054 Route 6 extension of amended site plan. Rich, Mike's and your comments?
So Mike's comments, he writes it for both lots 6 and 7. I have no objection to the extension of the approval of the two projects. I know we're only looking at 6, but this is what Mike wrote. I do not understand why the applicant continues to seek extensions of approval when permits are being issued on the lots for retaining walls and dwelling units are submitted and awaiting final tax map numbers, so I can issue permits for the construction of units. To date, there is no significant amount of construction on both lots. Mine are, I have no objection to the extension of the final site plan approval, as there are no changes.
And Pat?
So Mike's comment is an answer to the question. So the permits have been issued. There is no extension that's necessary because the permits have been filed and the building department has processed them. So there's no need for the extensions.
Any questions from the board? Hopefully you've all been up there. Now the road's gone in well, and we've seen this application quite a bit. I happen to agree with the consultants that there really is no need for the extension on this project. We're just talking about Gateway and Summit right now.
Yes. So, Mr. Chairman, just read into the record that they have filed their permits and there's no need for the extension, so that's in the record.
Read that now?
Yeah, just one of you say it, so it's not coming from me.
Okay. So, comment for the record is no extension is required as permits have been issued.
There you go.
And construction is started.
Well, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next on the agenda is the Fairways Multifamily Lot 7, 2054 Route 6 extension of amended site plan. Rich, once again, would you read Mike's and your comments?
Ditto. It's just a
It was
ditto.
a ditto,
Okay.
except I would change mine to say that they don't need it anymore, even though I agreed to it.
And again, for the record, Anthony, would you read it in as you did?
Okay, so I'll offer this for the record, that no extension of amended final site plan is required. All permits have been issued and construction has started.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Nice talking to you tonight.
Good to see you all.
Thank you.
We'll just be out of
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Good night, everybody. Thank you. Good meeting.